Okay, so today we're going to be doing a science or maybe a health lesson. It could kind of fit into either category. We're going to be discussing the food pyramid and then how that relates to Thanksgiving Day. So to start us out, I would have asked the students what they ate for breakfast and what they ate for lunch that day. I would then take their responses and write them on the board as they mentioned them. So for example, maybe they would have said chicken, broccoli, an apple, milk, and a cupcake. So I would write all of those things in a row, and then I would look at the list and tell the class that each of those foods actually belongs to its own group. They're all different groups, they're all different categories, and then that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I would also have mentioned in the beginning the importance of maintaining a balanced diet, which we'll talk about a little bit, but just that it's important to have foods from many different groups and many different categories in order to have a well-balanced meal and a well-balanced diet. So, beginning the lesson, I would ask the students, if I were in the classroom, what are some of their favorite Thanksgiving Day dishes to eat, or traditional Thanksgiving Day dishes. However, obviously, since I'm not in the classroom, I'm just going to talk about a few. And I also just want to make a note to be sensitive that there may be students in the classroom who, if they're from different cultural backgrounds, they may not be familiar with the traditional Thanksgiving meal. So they may have different things that their family eats that they're used to, or they may not have experienced Thanksgiving before at all. And so in that case, it would just be, just kind of don't assume that they are familiar with the dishes. So I do have a food pyramid to use for reference, and unfortunately I can't get any of the whiteboard markers to work for this board that's behind me. So it's a little bit dysfunctional, but here is what we're going to be using as a reference. So as you can see, there are 6 main food groups that are divided into the pyramid. The bottom one is the biggest. This is all your breads, your grains, your rices, pasta, cereal, anything like that. And then moving up, you've got your fruits and vegetables. So on this side are fruits. There's like tomatoes, cantaloupe, apples, strawberries, pineapples, any kind of fruits you can think of. And then on the other side, we've got your vegetables. So broccoli, tomato, peas, green beans, cauliflower, corn, any of that good stuff. Then moving right up the side, this is all of your milk and your dairy. So pictured, it looks like they've got some milk, some cheese, some yogurt, there's some ice cream in there. And then on the other side is your meat and protein group. So this is anything from chicken, eggs, fish, also to anything like beans or cashew nuts, anything that is here that is high in protein or otherwise a meat. And then right up here on the top, our littlest category is all the fats, oils, and sweets. So it's the smallest because you don't want to put a lot of that into your body. In order to have a well-balanced diet, you want to eat those things in moderation, but they are still a part of the food pyramid because, like I said before, every food falls into a category. So on Thanksgiving, traditionally, families eat a lot of turkey. That's usually the main dish. So going back to this pyramid, turkey would fall under the category of meat and protein, which is right up there. So it says on here that you should have between 2 and 3 servings of meat per day. So that would be about once with every meal. It doesn't have to be meat. It could be fish. It could be peanut butter, anything that's going to be really high in protein, eggs, anything like that. One of my favorite foods to eat on Thanksgiving is actually sweet potato casserole. So that might fall into a couple of different categories, but since it's mainly made from sweet potatoes, I'm going to say that it falls into the vegetable category, which is right over here. And this says that you need between 3 and 5 servings of vegetables every day. So this would mean 1 vegetable with every meal. Or maybe you say, I don't want to eat broccoli for breakfast. So that's okay. You could have 2 servings with your lunch and 2 servings with your dinner, and that would account for it as well. So maybe for Thanksgiving, you could have sweet potato casserole, and that would count for 1 serving. And then maybe you could have green bean casserole, and that would count for another one. or broccoli salad is another one that sometimes families use a lot. And those are all good sources of vegetables, good sources of vitamins and nutrients. Let's see. Another thing that a lot of people like to eat at Thanksgiving is a roll. Maybe that's your favorite dish, is just a nice buttered roll straight from your mother's oven. So that is going to go into our biggest category right here at the bottom with all kinds of breads and grains and pasta. So a roll would fall into that category. So this says that you need between 6 and 11 servings of bread per day. So that could be like any kind of a cracker, or if you have a sandwich maybe, and you have 2 pieces of bread on your sandwich, that could count for 2 servings. If you have cereal in the morning, that would be a serving, or maybe 2 servings, depending on how many bowls you have. And any kind of pasta or a muffin, a bagel that you would eat, those are all counted as servings of bread and under that bread group. So, my very favorite Thanksgiving dish is actually pumpkin pie. So if I was in the classroom, I would ask different students what category they think that a pumpkin pie would fall into, if it would be more in the bread category since it's got a pie crust, or if it would be in the vegetable category since it's got pumpkin. But a pumpkin pie is in fact in the very smallest category up at the top because it is a dessert, which means it's full of sugar, it's a sweet, and so while I can eat pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving, it's only a once in a while treat. Real quick again, it doesn't have any, see how all of the rest of the groups have servings that are labeled on here? Up at the top, this fats and sweets category doesn't even have any recommended servings. That means that you don't need a certain amount of those foods every day. So to have a well-balanced meal, you can have them once in a while. So maybe you have a sweet every other day, or once every couple days, or once a week. But you don't need a lot of foods from that category to add to your well-balanced meal. But everything from the other ones, the milk, the protein and meat, the fruits and vegetables, and the bread, you want a good variety of all of those things to give you a well-balanced meal. So at this point in the lesson, I would bring back up the chart that is on the board. It would just be the empty pyramid, and then I would have the categories listed. So meat, bread, fruit, vegetables, sweets, and then I would have a worksheet that was just blank, that without the categories listed, that I would hand out to all of the students, and they would take all of the words that we wrote on the board of their answers, what they ate for lunch and for breakfast, and then they would take each of those and with a partner categorize those into the different groups on their pyramid on their worksheet. So they would take the chicken and the broccoli and the apple and the cupcake that we talked about earlier, and they would write which category they think those foods would go into. And then I would also make a list of the different Thanksgiving Day dishes that I talked about, and then add a couple others to there, like stuffing and cranberry sauce and mashed potatoes, and I would just have a list like that, and then they would do the same thing. They would categorize them into where they think that they would fit on their pyramid, and then I would just kind of walk around and make sure that they're understanding, and I would ask them to discuss whether the foods that they listed that they had for lunch, if that makes a balanced meal or not, and if not, what they could do to kind of change that so that it would be a well-balanced meal. And then I would have a small discussion about the Thanksgiving Day traditional dishes and whether that makes a well-balanced meal or not. And if not, how they could change that up. So that is basically it. At the end, I would just allow them to take home their pyramids and maybe share them with their family on Thanksgiving Day. Maybe share with them what they learned a little bit. So that is it. Thank you for listening to my lesson.